There's a story floating around about Elizabeth Warren that has her taking a lot of heat from people on the left because she made $1.9 million over 30 years doing legal consulting work for a number of different corporations. Now, I don't even know. I don't even know why I do this. I know I'm going to get crushed, but I'll do the normal disclaimers. I'm not endorsing Elizabeth Warren. I'm not defending Elizabeth Warren's particular work in any of the cases we're going to discuss. But what I am here to tell you is I think that some of the critiques around this are a little bit misplaced. Some people are saying that this Warren thing is a story of misogyny, that Elizabeth Warren is being slammed for making $1.9 million over 30 years, whereas you have people like Michael Bloomberg spending $30 million on his own campaign and nobody questions it. Nobody questions Bezos' income, whatever. There's an identity politics thing that's being said about this. There are others who are saying this is really about corporate cronyism, centrist status quo politics, and Elizabeth Warren not as a progressive, but rather as a tool of the centrist corporate establishment. So once again, disclosure, this is not an endorsement of Elizabeth Warren. This is a warning that we should pick our battles and pick battles that make sense, particularly within the framework of the Democratic primary. So let's go through the facts. The report is that Elizabeth Warren put out a detailed compensation list, partially because of pressure from the Pete Buttigieg campaign. And it was revealed that she worked for about 30 years as a legal consultant. There were cases that she worked on as a consultant while she was teaching law, mostly at Harvard and at the University of Pennsylvania. Now, Elizabeth Warren is an expert in bankruptcy. A lot of the cases related to bankruptcy makes sense. And in total, it was $1.9 million in income over 30 years. So number one, this is about $63,000 a year. Now, there's no question that Elizabeth Warren is hugely privileged. We knew that back when she ran for Senate, and I interviewed her in person. I said, you know, you have rhetoric that is one thing, and at the same time, you are very wealthy yourself. Her net worth is known to be around $10 to $12 million now. I think it was more in the single digits then. I think she's made a lot of money from books and maybe speaking since. I'm not totally sure, but we've known that Elizabeth Warren has a lot of money for a very long time. What I hate to break to people is that earning $63,000 in extra income per year doing legal consulting when you are a relatively well-known and respected law professor is not shocking. It is not a crazy amount of money. When we're talking about Bloomberg and Trump and Bezos and you know, Sheldon Adelson and all of this stuff, Elizabeth Warren over 30 years making 63 grand a year doing legal work, which is what lawyers do, it's really not a scandal. Now, you can say some of the specific people she represented are problematic. Okay, now you've got a little bit better of an argument. She represented a company called LTV Steel, or consulted for them, who didn't want to pay into a fund for coal miners. She was on the wrong side of that. The progressive thing to do is you support the miners. She was hired by LTV Steel and she represented them. Can we go after her for that? Sure. In the same way that you can go after a defense attorney for representing someone that you think is guilty. That's fair game. That's just a question of what do we think about lawyers? She advised Dow Chemical about some breast implant litigation and made 20 grand for that. It was Dow Chemical on the side of people who had been hurt by their breast implants? No, she wasn't. And we can criticize her for that. She advised one of Enron's creditors. Remember, Enron imploded and lots of people lost money. She advised one of Enron's creditors. Most of the cases were pretty mundane and they never made headlines. Now, let's discuss the talking points that are floating around. There are memes floating around about, wow, a woman earns $2 million over 30 years. Oh my goodness. Meanwhile, Mike Bloomberg spends $35 million in 2 weeks on his campaign and no one bats an eye. First of all, people are talking about how much money Bloomberg is spending, so I don't think that it's fair to say there's not reporting about that. But I don't think it's about male, female in particular here. I think it's about expectations. Bloomberg is held to a different standard. He is a billionaire buying his way into this race. Elizabeth Warren is rightly seen as someone closer to Bernie, but with a more corporate past. There's no question. So I think this is the wrong area of focus. I don't think that this reveals anything new about Elizabeth Warren. I am very concerned and have been about her association with someone named Susie Orman, who's a sort of financial pop finance person who gives some kind of weird advice. That's not new. But this entire 1.9 million earnings over 30 years was pushed by the Buttigieg people And ultimately, I don't think we've really learned much from it. On policy, Bernie remains the most progressive. Elizabeth Warren is a close second. We know Bernie got to where he is politically from a hippie activist past in Brooklyn and Vermont. Elizabeth Warren, on the other hand, has been pulled left politically, coming from a more centrist, status quo, legal, political, corporate world. And we deal with their policy proposals as they are today, period. And I don't think this is the right story for the left to go crazy over. If I'm wrong, let me know. And no, I have not endorsed Elizabeth Warren in this segment.